Hello and welcome to the Comedian's OutLuke. This is a podcast where I, Luke Anthony, speak to fellow comedians about their life on the comedy circuit. This week I'm joined by comedian Nessie Ward, who has been on the comedy circuit for about 4 years. She started her career as a teacher, and after she retired she ran herself mental and decided to do a comedy class with Logan Murray. She went on to perform regularly on the comedy circuit and set up many comedy nights up and down the country. She now runs 2 nights, Wine Gums and Baby Wine Gums. Well, without further ado, this is my conversation with Nessie. So, please tell us, Nessie, how did you first get into comedy? When did you start?
Well, I think it's 4 years ago. I went on the Logan Murray course because, as you said, I'd retired from teaching and I went travelling, and I was a good wife for about 2 weeks, but then I was going bonkers, every lesson at school being 45 minutes, and I found myself doing stuff around the house for 45 minutes and then thinking, oh, what can I do then? I just wasn't relaxing. And then one night I went to see Jo Caulfield in the theatre, and she was telling stories about her husband, and I thought, I could do that about my husband, because he's a bit on the spectrum, he's addicted to sport. And so I went home to him and I said, I found what I want to do now I'm retired. And it's coming up to Christmas. Could you get me a comedy course for my Christmas present? And he went, well, it didn't. At Christmas came and went and there wasn't anything. And then I tried to do it on my own. I couldn't. And then the next Christmas I got it for myself and I went on the course.
So you basically asked him to pay for something for you to talk about him on stage.
I did.
And how did he feel about that?
Well, he was fine, actually. He was absolutely fine. And when I first did my first set after this course, I had 5 minutes that I did it in the open mic. It was a lot about him. And I remember that first night, and he doesn't drink much at all, but that night he was in the audience and he was totally plastered. And as I walked up to the stage, he said, Nessie, what if nobody laughs?
And did they?
They did.
They did laugh. Brilliant.
They did.
So tell me about so I understand that you did a comedy course with Logan Murray, and then you did another course with Logan Murray later. Is that right?
Yeah, I did the stand-up course, which got me going. Then I done a writing course with him, and then I do some one-to-one with him, kind of like on FaceTime. If I need extra help, I really, really recommend his courses. He really, can bring the idiot out of anything you write. He says, have another afterthought, and just really muck about with it, to make a joke. And then last year, I think it was in October, I did a character comedy course.
Wow, and tell me about that character. What is she like?
Well, to start with, there was about 8 of us on the course, and I was umming and ahhing. What shall I do? Shall I do a teacher character? Shall I do Nessie the monster character? And then, because I'd recently become a grandmother, I thought, shall I be a granny? And then it just evolved. So the beginning of the course, I still didn't know, and then it just evolved with the exercises Logan was giving us. And then I'm Granny Smith now.
You're Granny Smith now. Is that the set that you now do regularly rather than Nessie Ward? Or
Yes.
Okay, so that's the set. And actually, you're going to be performing for me at my comedy club, the Bridge Comedy Club, on the 6th of February, which I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah,
so
I am.
This will be the first time I'll have seen her perform as Granny Smith. So come and see her there first.
Yes.
So you spent many years as a teacher. How would you convince someone to do something they didn't want to do? So when, as a teacher, you would have had many boisterous children trying to cause disruption. And how did you manage to get through to them when you did that?
Usually involved food. So there would be like cake or sandwiches or something.
So you bribed them?
Yeah.
You bribed them. Yeah. It's obviously very good parenting advice as well for anyone who's a new parent. Offer them sweets, cake and sugar to get them to do what you want them to do.
But also sometimes I didn't have to bribe them because I was head of PSHE, and part of that was teaching relationships and sex education, and they really wanted to listen to that, so they were very well behaved.
When I did PSHE, I often found that one a difficult one because the teacher that we had, I won't mention her name, but the teacher we had at the time, she used to just basically call it a reading lesson. So you'd come in and you'd have to read in that lesson because you couldn't be bothered to do the whole sex education thing. So I learned nothing about sex and those things. But one week, me and my friend decided to bring in the Kama Sutra because we thought, well, we're meant to be doing sex education in this lesson. She's told us we're not going to do it, and we're actually going to be doing reading. So I thought, well, why not learn about sex then and bring in the Kama Sutra? She confiscated it. I had, I think, 2 weeks of detentions, and she said that I could have it when I leave the school. I never got it back. So I always wonder what she did with it.
So how did you learn, Luke?
I feel that the role of this interview has suddenly switched round, and now me as Luke Anthony, the comedian, has been interviewed by Nessie Ward.
Oh no, it was great because I didn't have any sex ed, so to be able to teach that. And when I first started teaching, when I was 22, and I was put in charge of sex education when I was 22, and I didn't really know much about it. I was a late developer, but I was told by the head teacher, tell them it's horrible, tell them it's painful, tell them they mustn't do it. And now just being able to tell them that it is the most wonderful thing, but how to form a relationship and all of that was wonderful. But I had to get rid of my husband's surname because he was called Mr. Allcock, and I couldn't be
as a comedian.
Mrs.
That's just too tempting, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, as a sex ed teacher, Luke, I couldn't be Mrs. Allcock, the sex ed teacher, could I?
That wouldn't work, Mrs. Allcock.
No, I did love teaching that, and the sexuality part of it as well. And the kids that came up to me after they'd left and came back and said, "Oh, I am bisexual, I am gay," and thanks for helping me kind of through that. And yeah, no,
it's a real taboo subject. It's very isolating as a teenager, especially I find for teenage girls, because it's something that it's a real difficult subject to talk about, because at that time you don't really know whether or not it's normal to be experiencing what you're experiencing, because it's also new and no one else has told you really. So I mean, sex education in schools is really important. I think it should be. I think I had mine in primary school, at the end of primary school. I think my first.
Yeah, that's what they do now. That is compulsory, year 5 and 6, about babies, how babies are made and everything. Yeah. But luckily at my school, even though it's only just become statutory, but luckily from 10 years ago, I was teaching it right from the little ones, 4-year-olds, how to keep your body safe, and all of that's so important. But one of the funny things I remember, and you always have teaching assistants in the class, and they were young men, like you, and I was giving them a little test about stuff, and it was like, now when a man has a wet dream, a boy has a wet dream or ejaculates, how much semen comes out? They knew all about these words. Is it a teaspoonful? Is it a pint? And I had a pint bottle. Or is it a litre? And one boy put his hand, I know, it's a litre. And all these TAs. You could just see all these other teachers.
Is he, a bull?
It was so fun. It was, so many funny things happen when, and I was so embarrassed when I first started teaching it, But I just made it really, really fun. And I had a blind boy in my class as well as him being autistic. So I had to have all the touchy-feely stuff. So I had to have a penis that he could feel, and all the other parts of the, female anatomy, the boobs. And he was blind. So, but so a lot of the time I didn't have behaviour problems in my classes because they were just loved learning.
So prior to doing the comedy clubs, you obviously did a fair bit on the comedy scene in Cambridge. Or did you do that instantly after? No,
I did. Yeah, prior to this, I was doing a lot of open mic in London and Birmingham. I was travelling all over the place and I was getting knackered.
It's tiring for anyone.
Yeah, it is, especially when my age. Well, I'm only 60-something. But, and then in the South Coast, my friends asked me to set up it's a music venue, but they asked me to set up a comedy club for them in Deal, and that was great. And so a lot of these comedians have done it in Deal, and that ran for 3 years, and we've just finished that at the moment. And then I did one at Thirsty in Cambridge. So I did do open mic and But now I'm trying to do more open mics, as I'm not doing so many comedy clubs. I'm trying to do this, my character as Granny Smith, and I'm excited about getting out there as my character. And I was doing it every week, then I've been poorly with a bad ear and neuralgia, and that's kind of stopped me. So I just got to get out there again.
So how did Granny Smith come about? We spoke briefly. It was because you became a grandma, but what gave that was the inspiration. But how did you then go on to develop the character?
Well, I think it was on my course and just doing different activities and, just writing down things or acting out different things, but then they didn't work. And then I just found some funny things, and but it can be developed. It's ongoing. I've got about 10 minutes of Granny Smith at the moment. And
that's a solid 10 minutes, so you're confident in that?
Yeah, I am. But things will change as I get out and do it more. I mean, I just did it open mic in Folkestone. I did it open mic in Gillingham. It's quite nice getting away from Cambridge to try it out. And it went down really, really well. And
brilliant.
Yeah, and then sometimes you go to places and there was only like 4 or 5 people in the audience, But at least it's practice, because it makes you do it. I'm not very good at just practicing on my own at home, or I'll start practicing and then I'm hungry, or go to the fridge or something like that. So
I feel silly in the mirror. If I'm there talking to myself, I don't find myself very funny, but audiences seem to find me funny. The sadistic audiences that watch me and laugh at my misfortune and things, they find it funny, but I don't find it funny because I'm going through that at the time. So if I'm telling myself, I'm having to relive these traumas. But I think that's really interesting, because creating a fight, I did a bit of acting when I was younger, and creating 10 minutes and like creating a character and staying a character throughout. I've seen people come in and out of characters it'd be interesting to see Granny Smith MC. Do you think she'd be suitable?
I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, obviously for this one, I'm just going to be myself, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at some point I might be Granny Smith MCing. But yeah, I've got a grey wig, and I've got funny kind of old person clothes, and
anoraks and
well, it was kind of like a night. It looked like I'd been taken out of the home.
That's brilliant.
But I might change that. I might just be like twin set and tweed skirt and things like that. So it's just work in progress, really. Although there's some bits which are really funny, and my husband even laughs and finds it funny, so it can't be that bad.
Have you warned him that this could become you in the future? So just bear with me on this, because this could come true.
Yeah.
I could be living the future right now on stage. So maybe you're giving him a bit of a warning in advance. But because you said you write still, you write. I mean, I still write material, and I still write my material and then try and remember that material. But each time I do it, I rely on the writing less and less, and I just develop and try and recognise where the laughs came or what worked, what didn't work, and then try and construct something better than the last one, even though the concept of the set is still the same. Have you got to a point now where you don't write, or do you still have to write?
I still write. And as I say, I still ask Logan to help me. Yeah. So Logan Murray, I might have a session, half an hour session, and when I've tried it out a few times, and then he can just help me bring out the idiot of it even more.
Right.
Which is fantastic. He's got that gift for doing that. So at the moment I'm writing something about my allotment. This is the thing, when you're an MC, you need new material each time.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the comedians do the same set for 1 year, 2 years.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're there each month, you're trying out a bit of new material. You're doing new stuff, which used to freak me out. But sometimes you can just have fun. But also I find it quite tricky doing audience participation, and I think that comes with time.
Yeah.
So if you think of Ben van der Veld, he's the most amazing MC, and his whole set can be just interacting with the audience. Or Russell Hicks, absolutely incredible. It's as if they don't have a set; they just do quarter of an hour just with the banter of the audience, which is such a gift. But he reckons that it took him about 10 years.
They say that's a good mark.
Yeah,
every comedian I hear of who's now making a good living out of it, says that it took him 10 years to get good.
Yeah.
And then it took him even longer to then get paid enough money to give up work and things like that.
Sometimes I think, oh, shall I have a guest MC? But my husband always says, and other people, no, they know you. You're wine gums. They feel safe with you. And you're there, you're telling. It doesn't really matter if you haven't got any new material. Just have a bit of fun with them and warm them up a bit. And, rather than be trying out new material. That's what I was trying all the time. Oh, I've got to have something new. But no, I think they know I do it. They feel safe. And, yeah.
You say that you the MCing you do, and you do that obviously as Nessie Ward at the moment. I will get people in to do the MCing for my comedy club, and the reason is because I really want to concentrate on my set. I don't want to be this upbeat person who's trying to get an audience up for the next act or before the next act.
Yeah.
Because I feel like for me at this stage, it's really important for me to have maybe my 5 minutes in there, or the 10 minutes in there, or the half an hour within the comedy club that I do. So I will get an MC in to do that because they're working on their MC and they want to do that. Whereas from just speaking with you, I know that you've got that real warm sort of aura about you that would work really well in a comedy club, and I look forward to coming along. And whereas I've got Martin Westgate actually, who's MCing my first night.
He's very good, and I think I've got him in March. I have
you?
him.
And I know he's a very good MC and a good promoter.
Yeah,
so,
he is. He's a really nice guy. Yeah.
So I really look forward to him coming along.
I did the MCing course with Barry Ferns, who runs Angel Comedy Club. Yeah. And I think I learnt so much from him. He said, just be puppy-like when you go on, be full of fun, high energy, and I think that really helped me a lot. Because I'm not very good at asking people, what do you do for a living and that? Because I don't ask people that in real life, and I find that a bit tricky. But so sometimes I don't do that.
You have to genuinely care about asking. So if you, I never walk down the street. So what do you do for a living then?
I know.
It just doesn't happen, does it? You don't go to a stranger and just say, so what do you do for a job?
No.
What is your job?
No, I know, that's what I find a bit tricky. But his course was great.
So tell me a bit about your comedy club. I'm very interested in the wine gums. When you said you've had some quite big names.
Yeah, I have. I started off with Baby Wine Gums first here, and that's a little wine bar on Cherry Hinton Road, and that only had capacity of 54, but it was lovely. I loved that coziness. And then Cambridge Wine Merchants offered me the grad pad, where I could get about 100 in.
Wow.
So then I could, with the money, I could make more money. So then I could pay to get more kind of pros, because pros I was asking for Baby Wine Gums wouldn't come unless it was like £175. Well, one or two did come. So I do have some big names coming that have been on Live at the Apollo, and I had Stuart Goldsmith in November, had Ian Stone. I've got coming up on February the 2nd, I've got Mark Simmons. He does lots of puns. He's really good. I've had him about 3 or 4 times at different places I've organised. And in the future, I was at Edinburgh Fringe this summer, and I've got Rich Wilson, quite a few different really good ones on the lineups. I'm fully booked up till June. Yeah.
Wow. So what was the main reason you decided to set up Wine Gums?
There were many reasons, really. I think being retired and being older, I needed something to keep me really busy, keep the brain going, and also to improve my emceeing skills. And when I was running say 4 or 5 clubs at one point last year, then yes, I was getting lots of stage time, and I can see that I have really improved. If I look back from when I first started, I can cringe at some of my emceeing skills, but I am getting more relaxed about it. But I still think some people say it takes about 6 or 7 years to get really good at it. So, but no, I'm not doing enough gigs at the moment. I always used to go down to London to open mic and everything, but I'm not. But I'm trying to do at least one a week.
One a week,
yeah.
Which in some people would say that's obviously not enough. But
yeah, if you're in London, then you've got so many
everywhere,
you can go to. But I go down on the train, come back. It was a lot. really.
It's expensive as well. You can do a lot of gigs for free and lose a lot of money doing it.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have a local scene. There is a bit of a scene in Cambridge for comedy, but there's still a big difference between the open mic circuit and the comedy club circuit. You know, like you say, with your comedy club, they're booked up until June. So anyone coming out of sort of December last year would know, obviously, that there's 6 months of the next year that they're not going to be able to get.
I do have open spots, and I think most people on a lot of people on the Cambridge scene have, like Bim's done an open spot, Ali's had a proper spot, and quite a Ruth, a few of them I've opened it up for open spots as well. So
okay, so do you book those in advance as well? Or,
no, I just say, so Luke.
So I've just got myself a gig. Brilliant. How often does the wine games happen?
Once a month, first Saturday of every month. And then I was doing baby wine gums. That was in the middle of the month. But I'm not doing baby wine gums at the moment, but I'm going to start it again. So this is down at the Grad Pad, down by Scudamores near the Mill pub.
Oh, yeah.
And it's it's quite a long, thin room, wine bar, Cambridge Wine Merchant. And then it's all cabaret stars, with tables and chairs, and they can have cheese and meat platters.
Wow.
And you can buy wine. The room's not perfect because it would be better wider, but I've bought a really good sound system.
Wow.
And I had a stage made, and I've decorated it. It's like a really girly thing, but I've got loads of lips, so wine gums, like the lip.
Yeah.
I have them all around, and I have loads of bunting and fairy lights. So it's just a bit different, I think.
So do you find the same people coming back every month to come and watch comedy?
I do have a lot of regulars, but there's always newcomers as well. Yeah, I'd say half and half, but some people come every month, which is lovely.
So what's the format of the evening? How do you, because I do a comedy club now, and I have maybe 10 open acts and then 2 headline acts that close each half of the show. I mean, how do you format it?
Okay, so we do start at 7:30 and we finish at 10, and I try to start bang on time. And doors are open at 6:30 so people can get their drinks, the tables. I have their names on the table, so they come in, they're guided to their table, and give them a 5-minute warning. And then I'm the MC, I warm them up a bit. Then we have the opener, who does 20 minutes. Obviously, I've done the admin about that in the warm-up bit. And then we have a break for about quarter of an hour, 20 minutes. And in that break, I always do a little game. So they have a caption. I always get a picture. I put them on each table with a pencil, and they write a caption under that. It might be something in the news. And then I give those captions to the comedians. They choose. So 50 people might have done something. And the comedians choose me 5 or 6. And then when it's time to start again, I read them out. But I have someone that's a clapometer. And the person that gets the biggest claps wins a bottle of wine for the caption. So that's quite fun. And then we have the 2 middle spots. Sometimes I have 3. It might be an open spot, and they either do 10 minutes or quarter of an hour. And then they have another break, and then we come back, and sometimes I play a game. Sometimes I do Mr. and Mrs., get some people up from the audience, or I do a funny thing they have to do. Like last time I said, I got 4 people up, and I said, right, they're going to throw something. I'm going to give you something, and you're going to throw it, and the person that throws it the furthest gets something. And everyone was a bit worried, And I said, but when they throw this thing, stand up wherever it goes. And people going, what? And then I gave them all a frozen pea each.
Yeah, they throw that.
And they threw that. And then the person that got it the furthest won a packet of wine gums. So I do free wine gums on each table.
Oh, I
so
see.
There's a whole lot of wine gums on
How
there.
did the name come about? What was the...
Well, because it was in Cambridge Wine Merchants, we thought that my cousin and I, we thought about different names, and then eventually Last of the Summer Wine, and then we came up with wine gums, and we asked the wine merchants which ones they liked best, and we all agreed on wine gums.
I think it's a really good
Yeah.
name. I do.
Yeah, and then we have the headliner, and then it usually finishes about 10, and people can stay there if they want, because I think you have to be out about 11ish.
Yeah.
So then
okay,
some
yeah.
people stay, and then they've had their cheese and meat platters if they want it, and yeah.
It's a real nice. Sounds like a real nice evening. I'll
Yeah.
have to come along even if I don't perform.
Yeah.
It's wine gums. I just wondered if you could get them to sponsor you. That'd be quite handy, wouldn't it?
Maynard's. I know
Yeah.
Maynard's, because then I've been using all different wine gums, and sometimes I do things with that, but
Yeah.
M&S wine gums are the best, because Maynard's still use pig's trotters or beef trotters for
Oh, I
the
see.
gelatine.
Not very popular at the moment,
But
are they? such
M&S,
things?
it's all pure stuff, so
Ah, okay.
they are more expensive. And then some of my prizes I give Prosecco. I say, and there's Prosecco to be won in this competition. Then I give them Prosecco wine gums.
Nice.
Maynard's. I mean, I had thought about that, writing to Maynard's or to M&S wine gums. I don't know, because
I would do M&S because I think wine gums Maynard's would have to stop putting gelatin in their pretty soon, because everyone's going mental at the moment
I
over the
know.
vegan thing. And is wine gum something you consider doing for a long time? Is it because you did a lot of other comedy clubs before, and you now just do the one and hopefully go back to baby wine gums as well? Is it something you plan to do for years to come, or?
I don't know. I mean, my husband's still teaching. He's a little bit younger than me. So it does keep me busy. I mean, I have a break for 3 months in the summer, and then I didn't do January. So, and then other people asked me to run a comedy night for them, like schools asked me for a fundraiser. So I do that, and lots of little other. Then in a music festival on the south coast, they asked me to organise that, and it's in a forest. So
Oh, wow.
so that's nice. So some of the comedians that I come across that I think would suit that, then I can book them for that as well. So, there's possibilities for my comedians. I can get them other spots somewhere else as well. But I don't know how long I'll do it. I'll just see how long. I think it's good for my brain to be doing something, and working on jokes and doing this organisation, because as you get older, your brain shrinks, your memory goes, but the plasticity of it can reorganise. So this professor told me. So, and when I said I was doing this, he said, "Oh, that's great for the brain. It will reorganise it and keep it active."
So it's for medicinal purposes. Yeah. So how much does it cost to get in? Just for our listeners to know.
At the moment, it's £13.
And the next one is on Saturday the 2nd of February.
And then it's the first Saturday of every month. Yes.
Brilliant. I'll be there. If for any comedians starting out now, I mean, I listen to comedians, and I absolutely love it, and it really, really helped me coming into comedy to do it. I've been writing and acting and stuff for many years, but it really, really did help me get some advice and actually make me feel better about the times that I died on stage, because you see that everyone's done it. Everyone's tried something new or done something new, and then it just didn't work, and then you go home a little bit down about it, and you go and do it again, and it works again somewhere else. So for anyone who's on the fence about starting out, what would you say? What would you advise? What's the one bit of advice you'd give to someone coming into comedy at a really early stage?
Coming into comedy, I would think just writing anything down. It doesn't have to be funny, and then you start working on that. And I do think going on a course or getting a book that gives you exercises to do. I know, Logan Murray.
Logan Murray,
he's
you
written
plug
a book,
that.
How to Be a Stand-Up, but there's loads of exercises there. But there, lots of books that can give you ideas to help. Because I've met lots of people who think, and I think I was the same. You think you're funny, but just getting up and saying a funny story isn't quite the same as doing stand-up. So I think a course, if you can afford it, or get a book that gives you exercises to do. and then just be practicing different things. And as you say, record it and then listen to it and transcribe it. And again, Barry Fern always said, a couple of years ago, he said to our group, "You'll never be any funnier than you are now."
It's true, isn't it?
And he said, and it's all a matter of editing what you're writing. It's, changing a word here, changing a word there. And that's, and
it's simply moving a pause in a set.
It is. And I mean, I have been on quite a lot of courses, and there's someone else I went on a course, and he said, just when I tell him some things I do, he said, "Is that true?" And I said, "Well, some of it is." And he said, "Well, it should all be true." And then other people you go on courses with, they don't, they have different ideas, So that's interesting. I do a bit of a cross. Most of my stuff is kind of true, and then you exaggerate it.
Oh, of course, yeah. The other thing that I found difficult as a comedian, and I this has become a bit like an advice column for myself, really, but I'm sure any comedians listening would also appreciate it, is that you go from the open mic nights, and I struggled with open mic nights because I struggled to turn music audiences, and I did manage it, and it did work. But how do you? I mean, you're a promoter yourself with like Wine Gums. How would you advise someone to go from absolutely nothing, or no name, or no image or thing, to doing a gig like yours? Is it just luck, or is it, if you're in an open mic night and you see a good comedian, you can obviously book them to?
That's what I have done. Like, there's the open mic that two of the Cambridge comedians do at the tram depot, First Last.
Oh, yeah.
And some of the people have come up from London to do that, or, and then I think, oh, that will go down well. And I've had them at Baby Wine Gums, or Thirsty, or the one I did in Deal. So, wherever I am, if I see someone really good, I try to book them,
This has probably been overdone so many times on podcasts, or comedy podcasts particularly, and at the moment there's a real big thing going on about female comedians, and now you're often seeing you're seeing like Live at the Apollo, all girls, where they've plucked sets from all different Live at the Apollos and put them into one show and then produced an all girls show. I've never ever in my life looked at comedy as male or female. I just think that at particular time there'd just be more male comedians than female comedians. I just wondered have you found any sort of discrimination in you being a female comedian going into comedy at all?
No, I don't think so.
You haven't?
I haven't, and I very rarely have had just a male lineup.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe in the 3 years I've been doing it, maybe once or twice, and then I have to say something. I say, this is unusual, but it's all male. But I always have women on the lineup. Yeah, but I myself haven't found any
issues in that sense.
No, I haven't.
I think if you're good, you're good, and whether you're male or female, if you're a great comedian, you'll be recognised as a great comedian. I think our listeners will agree this has been a really, really great conversation. I just want one last question, really, and that is, what does 2019 hold for you? What's your plan for this year?
Well, I've got a few things in the pipeline, Luke. Obviously, each month I've got Wine Gums, the first Saturday of each month, and I'm mostly booked up with those up till June, and then I have a 3-month break. I want to get out there and do more open mic myself, and develop my Granny Smith. Also, I've been asked to do a few other comedy nights, just one-offs in some schools, so I'm going to do that, and I want to get some more written work and more comedy written as well. But also I want to do some other things. I've got to do my allotment because I'm getting kicked off my allotment. So I've got to get up there and get digging as well and plant things there and spend time with my granddaughter. So I've got to have a more balanced kind of life, whereas before it was running 6 comedy clubs, which then turned out to be more stressful than teaching. So that's my
quite
plan.
A statement. More stressful than teaching.
It was almost, yeah. So I'm trying to balance it all out a bit more now.
Thank you very much for talking to me, Nessie. I appreciate it.
That's been lovely, Luke. Thanks very much.
Well, what a fantastic conversation I had with Nessie Ward. There you have it. That's the first episode of the Comedian's OutLuke. I know that in the podcast we advertise her wine gums for the 2nd of February. That's obviously now passed, but she has got an upcoming night coming on the 2nd of March. That's a Saturday too. And I actually went down to the wine gums after I had this conversation with her on the 2nd, and it was a fantastic night. I really recommend going. That's £13, and she does that monthly. She always has really professional comedians, and they're absolutely hilarious. So it's so worth going down there. They do cheese platters, meat platters, and all sorts. It's a really good venue and a really good night. This is a free podcast, so if you do feel generous enough to donate a couple of quid, you can go to www.lukeanthonycomedy.co.uk/podcast, and there's a donate button there. Click that and just donate as much as you can. This allows me to carry on all the admin fees and getting some great comedians around to talk to, and also hiring out the studio that we hire out. So yeah, thanks for listening.